Hello everyone, welcome to episode 29. In this episode we're going to start drawing our first gun, the Polar Star. And the problem is, I want a gun because this freaking bat is flying up and down and I just want to shoot it. And it's driving me crazy. So let's get a gun. And to do this, we are going to create a Polar Star class. And it's just going to be drawn at an offset from quote. And I'll show you the arms.bitmap file, which you can find the gun images in. And here's a Polar Star at index 2. Like, this is the 0th index when you don't have a gun. This is the first index when I don't know what gun that is right now. And this is the second index, and this is the Polar Star right here. So it's kind of, the guns are placed kind of unusually, but we'll see how it works out. And the actual width of a gun sprite is about 1.5 tiles. And then it actually gets offset a little bit once we start drawing it with quotes. So we're going to get into that, and we're going to start simple. Just draw a right horizontal gun because we have the left horizontal, right horizontal, up right, up left, that kind of stuff. And we'll just build on simplicity. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to introduce another way of doing the sprite state, and which I like a lot better. And this is going to use the boost tuple. Again, thanks to Sean Klein for this suggestion. And this really cleans things up because we don't have to implement, no longer need to implement operator less than. It comes free with a boost tuple. So what we're going to do is we're going to publicly derive from boost tuple and just add in a couple of accessors to make things easier. But a boost tuple is just a way of combining multiple data together without having extra functionality besides getters and setters. So it's just like our structs, our simple C style structs, but with the operator less than thrown in there for us. So that's what we're going to do in this episode. So I chose the right horizontal first because we don't have to draw an offset for right horizontal, and that's the only case we don't have to draw for any offset. So I'm going to start there. And I'll open source and add a new item. We'll call it Polar Star.h. Add. And we're going to need a CC file too, so I'll just add that now. Polarstar.cpp. CC. CPP doesn't matter. Whatever. Header guards. And include Polar Star. So let's just start by adding this Polar Star to our player class and just get it drawing from inside of there. And so I'll go into player.h and include Polar Star. And just add it to our long list of things, probably below our health, damage, text, etc. So I'll just make it a Polar Star. Polar Star, and open up player.cc too. So we're going to need to initialize the sprites in polarstar.h, so I'm going to make a constructor that takes in a graphics. And initialize it in our player.cc file down here below invincible timer. Passing it graphics. And then I'm going to want to be able to draw it too, so we're going to need actually quite a bit of information from our player class when we draw it. So, but to begin with, all we're going to need is our player position, our player X and Y from the top left. So we'll call this void draw graphics, taking in a graphics, taking in a units of game, and a units of game Y. So this will be X and this will be Y. And we need to include units. And then in player.cc we can actually call this draw method from inside of our own draw method. And our gun is going to flash with our player, but it actually gets drawn behind the player, so we'll draw it as the first thing. So polar star dot draw, giving it graphics and our position, X and Y. So now let's implement these to this constructor and the draw method. So I'll copy these over. So we're going to need a sprite. So I'm gonna add that in down here, and I'm just gonna make it a stack type variable. Again, stack's kind of hazy in C++, but you guys hopefully know what I mean. So sprite, we'll just call it sprite. And so we'll need to include sprite for now. And polarstar.cc, we will initialize our sprite. So what are we going to initialize our sprite with? So it's going to be this arms.bitmap, so /content arms.bitmap. And we also need to pass it the graphics first of all. And then where is it at? It is at, so the width of each gun is, well, let's start with the width. Let's make some constants to make this easier. So namespace const units of game k gun width, and this is going to be equal to 1.5 tiles or 3 half tiles. So our polar star index is at index 2, 0 base, so we'll just make an index 2. So k polar star index equals to 0 based indexing. So we can just do k polar star index times k gun width, and then convert this to pixels. So units game to pixel. And then our height, our k gun height, is just going to be 1 tile. That's easier to do. Finally, we have, no, that's the, sorry. Yes, we do want to do k gun height because we want to get the second one down, which is our right facing gun. But this isn't actually representing the k gun height, so we'll look into this more later. But for now, this is just where our right facing gun is. So our width is, again, k gun width. And our height is k gun height. So next we want to draw it. And for the right case, the right horizontal case only, we can just draw at the X and Y position. So we'll just do sprite dot draw, giving it graphics and the X and Y position. All right, I'm going to build to make sure that this is all compiling. So I converted something wrong. Oh, I didn't convert these to pixels, so let's do that. Game to pixel. And this too. And I'll try building again. Make sure there's no warnings, and I'll run. And we see it, we have our polar star, and it's facing right always, and it shouldn't be doing that, but it still looks good when we're facing the right and walking to the right. While I see this, I'm also going to make a sprite, or a constant for this standard string k sprite path. So let's now implement our sprite state and sprite map, and this is going to be really similar to how we were doing it before, except for our sprite state is going to be implemented in terms of, or as a tuple, and this will make it easier because we don't have to implement operator less than. So let's include our map, and let's include our shared pointer. shared pointer.hpp, and change this sprite to a forward declaration, and just name our standard map. And it's going to be from sprite state, which we'll define in a minute, to a boost shared pointer of sprites. And we'll just call it sprite map. I'm changing my mind now. I think I'm going to do the sprite, the boost sprite tuple thing in the next episode, so we can do clean up all of our sprite states at once. So I'm going to do just the normal sprite state. It'll be struct sprite state. It's going to have a horizontal facing and a vertical facing, just like our player. So we're going to actually go into our player class and move those enums, this horizontal facing and vertical facing, to another file so that we can share it between the two. So let's open up a new item, call it a header file. We'll just do sprite state.h and header guards. And let's delete and move these enums into this new sprite state.h file. And I'm going to include in our player.h our sprite state.h so that we don't break that stuff. And that's all happy now, so let's get rid of these player stuff. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add these to our sprite state. We do need to include up here sprite state.h so we can have a horizontal facing and a vertical facing. So let's make a constructor. And then we also need to do our operator less than, which is what our boost tuple would be solving pretty easily. But we're going to do that in the next episode because I'm going to do something a little bit special with it. And it kind of clutters up the episode if I try to introduce too many topics at once. So boost tuple, no, sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. Friend, bool, operator less than, taking in two sprite states, A and B. And I'm just going to implement it right here. I'll just return if A dot horizontal facing is not equal to B dot horizontal facing. We can just return and then we can just return B dot A dot vertical facing less than B dot vertical facing. Okay, so that's our sprite state now. Build it just to make sure it's working. Okay, yeah, so it's complaining about the sprite, which we need to do our initialize sprites and initialize sprite kind of magic. So let's make those and define these. A lot of this we've done before, so I'm not going over it very much. So this is a sprite we're going to be initializing, so I'm going to move it down here into our initialize sprites. No, I'll just move it into initialize sprite. We'll initialize them all to be the same at first. And call initialize sprites, giving it graphics. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy over our loop, our double loop from our player class, because it's the exact same loop. So I'll go to player.cc and down here in initialize sprites. We have this inner loop, right? So I'm going to copy and paste it. Again, I'm going to spend the next episode reducing a lot of this boilerplate because we're going to have to do this over and over again. And it's about time we did that, or reduced the boilerplate. And so for the sprite state, we don't have a motion type anymore, so we can just get rid of that and just change it to H facing and V facing. So now let's initialize all of our sprites to be, so we'll do sprite map sub sprite state. And just to get it all working together again, I'm just going to initialize it all to be the same sprite. So we'll do boost shared pointer, giving it a sprite as its template argument, and passing it in a new sprite. Make sure we have enough parentheses, change that to a semicolon. And we need to include sprite, because I changed it to a struct before. Okay, so now we need to do sprite map.draw. So I'm just going to create a sprite state. It doesn't matter which one. Let's do right horizontal. And arrow draw, and just make sure that this all builds and runs just like we had it before. So building, and it seems to be building all right, and it's successfully built. And yeah, we can see that our gun is now facing right still at all times. So now let's let's work on passing our sprite state to our gun, our player's sprite state to our gun. So basically, our draw method is going to need to be able to construct a sprite state. So we're giving it right horizontal right now, but I'd like to give it our player's sprite state. So let's take in a horizontal facing. We'll call it horizontal facing. And a vertical facing. Call it vertical facing. Move these down so you can see them. Dang. And we'll change this right to be horizontal facing, and this vertical to be vertical facing. And also update our polarstar.h, so let's copy those over. And then go into our player.cc and call draw with the correct number of parameters. So draw, passing it in our horizontal facing and our vertical facing. And let's build and make sure that this is working. And then we can implement our sprites and make sure that the offsets are all correct. So that's all working. And I still see the gun, so I'm happy. So there's going to be a few offsets, so I'm going to make some constants. So let's say const units of game k up offset is equal to 2 tiles. So we'll do units tile to game to, it's 2 tiles down in our sprite sheet. So this gun right here is 2 tiles down and it's facing up. Our down offset is going to be 4 tiles. Again, same logic. And our horizontal offset is going to not be any tile, so horizontal. Our right offset is going to be 1 tile, and our left offset is going to be 0. So again, because our right gun is immediately below our left gun. So let's work on this. Let's work on our initialized sprites. So now we can actually check out our sprite state and change our tile Y based on that. So let's create a tile Y. Units of tile Y. And let's just start out by adding in our initial offset. So if sprite state dot horizontal facing is left, then we can say our tile Y is equal to the K left offset. Otherwise, we can say it's a K right offset. And then we can do a switch for the other, for the vertical facing. So switch on sprite state dot vertical facing case up break down and horizontal is our first case, horizontal. And finally, just to satisfy the compiler, last horizontal facing or last vertical facing. So tile Y is going to be offset by another K horizontal offset. So we'll do plus equals. Here we'll do K up offset. And here we will do K down offset. And here we want to, instead of doing game to pixel K gun height, we want to do tile to pixel tile Y. So let's build and run this just to see if everything is working. Initialization, conversion. Okay, so yeah, I got to change these to units of tile. So units game to tile. No, I can change them up here. Yeah, I can change these up here to tile units. My bad. And get rid of this conversion. It's no longer relevant. Build and run again. Alright, so now his gun is actually indeed facing left. You can't really see it. It looks better when he's facing right, but let's look up and let's try down. Yeah, so everything is a little bit off, and that's because we need to add offsets when we're drawing. So let's do that next. Okay, so when we're actually drawing it, we need to offset our X and Y. So I'm going to offset if horizontal facing is equal to left, then we need to offset it. Otherwise, if it's right, we don't need to offset it. And we need to offset it by half a tile. Half a tile to the left. Okay, so now let's take care of the vertical facing. So if vertical facing is equal to horizontal, we don't do anything. If it's equal to up, then we want to add Y, add to Y, a quarter tile. So units K half tile divided by 2. If we're facing down, oh, I'm sorry. If we're facing up, we want to subtract, right? Because up is negative direction. But if we're facing down, then we can add a quarter tile. And this should take care of all of our gun offset issues. And so I'll build and run. Sweet. Look at quotes gun. We look right, look left. Okay, now let's look up. Okay, that looks right. That looks perfect. Look right, left, right, left. Okay, now down. Okay, we can see there's still a few bugs that need to be worked out. Like when I hold down and then I keep holding down. The gun is facing down, but quote appears to be facing horizontal. That's a bug that we're going to be fixing in the next few episodes. And the next few episodes are going to pretty much just be like playing catch up on some of the things that I've been neglecting to fix, mostly in the interest of making fun videos. But it's time, and I'd like to do them all at once. And I'll talk about that in the next episode. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. This has been a lot of fun developing, and I hope you have fun developing too. Goodbye, all.